you. So good evening. My name is Rolando Bonilla. I am the chair of the San Jose Planning Commission. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting. This meeting is being held via Zoom conference call due to the COVID-19 crisis. Members of the public may participate by following the instructions listed on the agenda. You may also view and listen to the meeting on live stream cable TV, Granicus, and YouTube. If you'd like to provide public comment, and you have two methods to provide public comment. All members of the public will remain on mute until the individual identifies they would like to speak, and you are unmuted. Following roll call during summary of hearing procedure, we will review how the public may provide comment during today's session. With that, we welcome, and before we begin welcome, let me get off script a little bit and just say welcome to the newest members of the San Jose Planning Commission. This is truly a historic moment for our city, as it is the first time there have been 11 members of the San Jose Planning Commission representing every corner of the great city of San Jose. It is truly an honor to finally see this dream come to fruition. We will agree, we will disagree, we will debate, but at the end of the day, I'm excited by the fact that every part of the city will have a seat at the table to discuss the future of our city. So with that, welcome, and I will now get to our official roll call. Bonilla, present. Casey.
Present.
Caballero. Caballero present. Cantrell. Go back. Garcia.
Present.
Lardenois.
Present.
Montañez.
Present.
Oliverio. Ornelas Wise. Torrance.
Here.
Young.
Present.
Let the record reflect that as of right now, Commissioners Cantrell, Oliverio, Ornelas Wise are not present. Summary of hearing procedures.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Cantrell is present. I believe something might have been wrong with their audio. They are participating as a member of the panel as we speak.
Okay. Well then, Robert, thank you for that. Commissioner Cantrell is here. Let the record reflect that Commissioners Oliverio and Ornelas Wise not here, but let's also confirm that they too are not stuck in the same Zoom limbo that our colleague is in right now. Summary of hearing procedures. The procedure for this hearing is as follows. After the staff report, applicants and appellants may make a 5-minute presentation. City staff will call out names of the public who identified the items they want to speak on. You may identify yourself by the raised hand feature on Zoom. Click *9 on your phone, or you may call 408-535-3505 or email planningsupportstaff@sanjoseca.gov and identify your name, phone number, and what item or items you would like to speak on. As your name is called, city staff will unmute you to speak. After we confirm your audio is working, your allotted time will begin. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Speakers using a translator will have 4 minutes. After the public testimony, the applicant and appellant may make closing remarks for an additional 5 minutes. Planning commissioners may ask questions of the speakers. Response to commissioner questions will not reduce the speaker's time allowance. Staff will unmute the speaker to respond to the commissioner. The public hearing will then be closed and the Planning Commission will take action on the item. Planning Commission may request staff to respond to the public testimony, ask staff questions, and discuss the item. If you challenge these land use decisions in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the city or prior to the public hearing. The Planning Commission's action on rezonings, pre-zonings, general plan amendments, and code amendments is only advisory to the City Council. The City Council will hold public hearings on these items. Section 20.120.400 of the Municipal Code provides the procedures for legal protests to the City Council on rezonings and pre-zonings. The Planning Commission's action on conditional use permits is appealable to the City Council in accordance with Section 20.100.220 of the Municipal Code. Feels like we're in law school again. With that, we will officially call Call to order and orders of the day. Item 2, public comment. Staff, do we have any speakers for public comment, specifically on items not on tonight's Planning Commission agenda? Jennifer, you there?
No, we do not. Oh, wait, actually, we just have
Yes,
one
we
that's
do.
raised.
Alex,
Okay, so then let's cue that speaker up.
Alex, you are unmuted. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, commissioners, this is Alex Shore with Catalyze SV. Just wanted to let you know, I'm sure a lot of you were following it, and thank you for those of you who dug in on the issue a couple months ago, but the city council approved the rezoning and the urban village plan for the Berryessa area. And the city council was able to make, through a lot of discussions with the Berryessa Flea Market Vendors Association and with the property owners and with city staff, an agreement that was better for all parties involved. So it was really nice to see over the course of those couple months the improvements made to the plan. And it goes to show what's possible when we dig in and we allow folks to work on these issues and negotiate and come up with something that's a triple or a quadruple win. So hopefully a great lesson for the city on what's possible when we work to negotiate and we try to make projects as good as they can be. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment?
No, not at this time.
All right, great. Seeing none, we'll now move to deferrals and removals from calendar. Anything anyone want to remove from the calendar? The one item? Nope. All right.
items.
And I note for the, pardon me, Chair, I note for the record also that Commissioner Oliverio seems to be aboard right now as well. And I didn't see Commissioner Ornelas Wise. Jennifer, can you confirm attendance right now?
Confirming that Commissioner Ornelas Wise has not arrived yet.
Okay, and Oliverio is on board.
Yes, as of 6:35.
Thank you.
Great. So item 4, consent calendar. Staff, are there any public speakers on items currently on the consent calendar? I don't think we have anything on the consent calendar, do we? I'm sorry, say it again.
Yes, we do have review and approval of the June 9th, 2021 Planning Commission hearing.
Got it. Commissioners, are any of you wanting to remove this item from the consent calendar? The answer is no. Okay. With that, we will go ahead and move to item 4A, review and approve action minutes from June 9th, 2021. Do we have any changes to the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, a motion from Commissioner Oliverio and a second from Commissioner Caballero. With that, let's take a roll call vote. Bonilla, yes. Casey?
Yes.
Caballero?
Yes.
Cantrell?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Ordenois?
Yes.
Montañez? Montañez? All right.
It looks like she's speaking, but her microphone maybe isn't working.
Got it. We'll come back to Montañez. Oliverio?
Yes.
Ornelas Wise is not on the meeting currently. Torrance?
Yes.
Young?
Abstain.
Okay. Do we want to go back to Montañez? Commissioner?
We still cannot hear her.
Maybe she can do a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay, let me see if I could see her up here with this, the way it's paneled up. Thumbs up, thumbs down, neutral? Neutral, got it. She's abstaining? Abstaining, got it, perfect. All right. I mean, look at that. We're already solving problems for this city right now. All right, with that, the motion passes with Montañez and Young abstaining and with Ornelas Wise absent. We'll now move to item 5, public hearing. We'll now open the public hearing. Staff item SP 20-004. Staff, you can go ahead with your presentation. Do we have a presentation?
Yep. Myra, did you want to go briefly? We have a quick correction to read into the record first.
Yes, I can do that. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Myra Blanco. I am the Environmental Project Manager for the West San Carlos Mixed Use Project. I have corrections to read into the record. These include removing references to a less than significant impact for the design alternative in the special use permit, as well as the environmental resolution. Secondly, attaching a revised mitigation monitoring and reporting program, or MMRP, referenced as Exhibit H in the project hearing packet. We have a revised MMRP. And third, adding 2 standard environmental permit conditions to the special use permit. The first one would require a detailed acoustical study to reduce noise associated with mechanical equipment. The second condition would require the applicant to pay the school impact fee. Those are the corrections for the record.
Thank you, Myra. So good evening, commissioners, and welcome to the new commissioners as well. My name is Alec Atienza. I'm the Planning Project Manager in the Planning Division. So before you this evening is a consideration of the West San Carlos Street Mixed Use Project Environmental Impact Report, including a statement of overriding considerations and related mitigation, monitoring, and reporting plan. Additionally, we have a special use permit and a site development permit to allow the demolition of all buildings on site, the removal of 15 trees, and the construction of 2 7-story mixed-use buildings consisting of 173 residential units and 17,836 square feet of commercial space, with an approximately 42% parking reduction on a 1.34 gross acre site. This site has a general plan land use designation of urban village and is consistent with the general plan major strategies for focused growth in urban villages, as well as general plan policies regarding land use and employment, as well as community design. The project is located in the West San Carlos Urban Village, which has an approved urban village plan adopted by the City Council in 2018. This project does conform with all applicable development standards with regards to height and setbacks for the West San Carlos Urban Village, as well as the CP Commercial Pedestrian Zoning District. Additionally, the zoning code allows sites with in-growth areas such as urban villages to request parking reductions. The project includes an approximately 42% parking reduction in the number of code required vehicle parking spaces. To achieve this parking reduction, the project is required to implement a transportation demand management plan, known as a TDM plan. So the TDM plan would help achieve the city's general plan objectives of encouraging multimodal transportation. And additionally, all bicycle and motorcycle parking would be provided on site. The project is consistent with City Council Policy 6-30 for public outreach. A joint community meeting and environmental scoping meeting was held at the Buena Vista Midtown Apartments on Monday, January 9th, 2020. Approximately 22 members of the public attended that meeting. Questions and comments from attendees included concerns related to building height, traffic, parking, a lack of retail options in the neighborhood, as well as sidewalk safety during construction. An on-site sign was also posted on the project frontage, and notices of this public hearing were mailed to owners and tenants within 1,000 feet of the site. The environmental impact report prepared for the project in conformance with CEQA did conclude that the implementation of the project would result in a significant impact to historic resources. The project would include the demolition of candidate city landmarks located at 1530 West San Carlos Street. And that includes 1 craftsman style house and 7 Spanish revival style bungalows. That would be the bungalow court. Additionally, mitigation measures were developed to lessen the following project impacts to less than significant levels. And those impacts include exposure to sensitive receptors to toxic air contaminants disturbance and or destruction of migratory nesting birds, exposure of workers to residue contamination from previous industrial operations at the project site, exposure of sensitive receptors to construction noise, and damage.
You mind if I jump in for a quick second?
Sure. Yep.
Is there a presentation to this, or is this all just
After this, the applicant will actually provide the project details, if that helps.
Got it, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so, as Myra mentioned earlier, standard environmental permit conditions are also included in this special use permit to ensure no impacts occurred during construction and operation of the project. It should be noted that staff did receive a supplemental comment letter prior to this meeting regarding opposition to the findings of the EIR. Environmental planning staff are present should commissioners or members of the public have any questions regarding this. And lastly, as discussed in the staff report, the project is consistent with the general plan, West San Carlos Urban Village Plan, zoning code, and applicable city council policies. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend City Council approve this project. If so, the project would be heard at the August 24th City Council hearing. And this concludes staff presentation. So now we have Jeff, Ty, and VG from the applicant team who will be presenting the project.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeff, you have 5 minutes for your presentation. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Good evening, commissioners and District 6 Council, planning staff. Thank you for all your help on this project. And I'm Jeff Current with Studio Current, Urban Design and Architecture. Our project team for this project is shown here. Urban Villas LLC is the ownership team. Studio Current Architect, Janicki and Associates, Landscape Architect, and JMH Weiss, Civil Engineering. The project site, which you see here in the center in blue, is pretty much located dead center within the 2-mile-long West San Carlos Urban Village District on the south side of the street. The existing neighborhood is kind of a mixed bag of uses, commercial uses, retail uses, used car lots, and some newer multi-story podium-type residential mixed-use projects, which are more in alignment with the urban village vision. The urban village vision for our project is meant to achieve an active streetscape and pedestrian-friendly corridor through the use of active storefronts, sidewalk dining, seating, planting, etc. Our site is shown on this slide. You can see these are the court homes that Alec had mentioned. We had a small restaurant space on the front of the site, a car lot over here, and some rental car adjacent to it. The new project, this is the ground floor and the right-hand side of the screen. You'll see pretty much the entire frontage of West San Carlos Street is being lined with active retail, restaurant space, and a residential lobby. The building itself, as Alec mentioned, has 173 residential units, a little over 17,800 feet of commercial, retail, and office space. And the parking, we exceed the minimum parking by about, what would that be, 16 spaces. The building, as we go up, the second floor has office space facing the main boulevard. These are live-work loft style units on level 2. When you get up to level 3, this is the top of the podium level where the wood framing starts. There are 3 active courtyard spaces for the residents, as well as units surrounding those courtyards, a variety of studio through 3-bedroom units. I'm not going to go through details on the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, but we have active retail or active outdoor spaces on levels 1. There's a 30-foot long paseo in the rear of the building that eventually is going to be 4 blocks long from Meridian to Buena Vista Street. The building you can see here steps back on the south side to respect the lower density daylight plane to the single family homes and smaller apartments that are south of the project. The main boulevard, as I said, is mostly lined with active retail uses. The building and its architecture is meant to be modern with touches of mid-century modern, which is one of the themes that the Urban Village Plan recommended that we use. This slide shows the east elevation as well as the south elevation of the building. There's a couple of renderings. The one on the right here shows the 30-foot public paseo space along the south edge of the property. You can see the 5th floor terrace. It's a sun deck that's off of our main lounge. I didn't mean to flick that one over. That's on the 5th floor. This is an image from West San Carlos Street on the left with the active retail and office above that, and then 5 levels of housing. It's a 7-story building. The project intends to use mid-century modern design that's kind of been inspired by some of the on-site signage that goes back to the 40s and 50s.
30 seconds left.
The building, as I said, has some upper level roof terraces, roof decks, and lots of outdoor space for the residents. And pretty much the next slides are just kind of an overview of some of the landscape. This one shows the streetscape along the front, the paseo in the rear. These are the 3 levels of courtyard. 3, 5, and 7 have active courtyard. Public benefit to the project is
The time is up. Your 5 minutes is up.
All right, you know, can I this is my final slide if you want to let me go through this last public benefit. Or I'm happy to stop.
You're on mute, Chair. Chair, you're on mute.
Yeah, no, thank you. We're going to have to move forward, but thank you. We will keep you on, though, in case my colleagues have any questions. So that may be your opportunity to put that information in there. But having said that, do we now have public comment? Any public comment?
Yes. We have
All right.
John. John, you are unmuted.
Hi, good evening. This is John Leyba, former Planning Commission Vice Chair, as well as former President of the Buena Vista Neighborhood Association. My family has a home 2 blocks from the project site. And one thing I wanted to know was if there are any controls in the planning and permitting for the project, specifically for construction impacts. Controlled intersections are blocks apart on West San Carlos Street. And when prior developments were under construction, the neighborhood had pedestrian access problems around the project sites. Example, if you're in San Francisco, typically there's like a little catwalk tunnel thing that gets built. In San Jose, we don't often do that. But on San Carlos Street, I personally witnessed people pushing strollers in the middle of traffic to go around prior projects. So I'm wondering if there are any controls in place to ensure that the sidewalk remains accessible so we don't see mamas pushing strollers in the street to go around the development. And I also wanted to know if there is a contact in case there are construction issues or the project engages in construction activity outside of its permitted window. Typically there's stated hours on when projects can operate. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment?
Brian. Yes, Brian, you're next.
Good evening. My name is Brian Flynn. I'm here on behalf of the Laborers International Union of North America, Local Union 270, or LIUNA. The EIR here has failed to discuss and mitigate the project's significant environmental impacts, namely the project's impacts to indoor and outdoor air quality. In addition, the city has failed to adequately respond to LIUNA's comments on the draft EIR. So LIUNA is requesting that the Commission refrain from recommending approval of the project and final EIR at this time. As a quick preliminary matter, staff had mentioned that there were corrections to the EIR significance determinations and mitigation plan. I would just ask that we get a little more detail on that during the meeting to know what's been changed and what's been disclosed or not to the public. In LIUNA's comment letters on the draft EIR, we raised serious concerns about the increased cancer risk to future residents and employees, resulting from off-gassing of formaldehyde from composite wood products used during construction. I retained a indoor air quality expert who found the increased cancer risk to future residents and employees well exceeded the CEQA significance threshold set by the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. As a result, the city should have investigated this impact and applied mitigation measures for the project. Instead of analyzing the impact, the city's response in the final EIR merely claimed that the project would comply with Cal Green building standards and the formaldehyde regulations of the Air Resources Board. This ignores the fact that the calculations were done assuming the project would comply with those standards. And just because a project complies with the existing standards does not mean that the impact is less than significant for CEQA purposes. The city also claimed that the impact of formaldehyde emissions
20 seconds left.
Thank you. Did not need to be addressed because CEQA does not require an analysis of the environment's impact on a project. Here, the formaldehyde emissions are clearly an impact of the project. They are not an existing environmental condition. So for those reasons and the reasons in our letter, we request the commission not recommend certification at this time. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Gavin, you are unmuted.
Hi, thank you very much, Planning Commission, for taking my comments. My name is Gavin Laurie, and I'm with the organization Catalyze SV. Our members were lucky to review this project in April of 2018, and then again review kind of some of the updates in April of this year. And so they were very impressed with a number of elements of this project. The thing that stood out the most was the elements around transportation and transportation demand management. The project will provide BTA transit passes for all of the residents. It will also have unbundled parking, so parking separate from residential units, and also with its mix of uses and ample bike parking. We really believe this will be an asset to the corridor and really allow people to live without cars. Additionally, we are really impressed with this project mix of uses. We really believe that a mix of uses and projects creates a vibrant area, and with office on the second floor and retail on the first, and a whole lot of residents, we think this will really add to the West San Carlos area. Additionally, the project is very dense, and we're really pleased with the density and amount of homes that will be built on this project. The one area that we do hope that could be improved with the project is around the amount of affordable housing. We believe that affordable housing should be provided, or if possible, should be provided on site up to 5%, and even more if possible. Additionally, we were happy the project came back to us and there's been improvements. So we hope to see this project move forward and get approved tonight or get sent to the city council. So thank you very much for taking my comment, and hope to see this approved.
Any other public comment?
Yes, we have one more. There's also a few hands on the panelist side. Do you want to just continue with public comment?
Yeah, we'll stick to that.
Okay. Alex, go ahead. You are unmuted.
Hey again, Planning Commissioners. This is Alex Shore, Executive Director of Catalyze SV. Forgot to welcome the new commissioners earlier in the evening. For those of you who haven't worked with our organization before, we evaluate and score development projects, which is what my predecessor in conversation tonight, Gavin, was talking about. Our members are very, very interested in good development throughout the community and county, and yet they live all over. So they bring really regional perspectives about housing and transportation and vibrancy to hyper-local topics like development projects. So when they reviewed this project, we've had some great conversations with Studio Current that's been very responsive to the things we've been talking about. One of the areas of improvement that Gavin mentioned really quickly that we've been talking to Studio Current and the team about for a couple of years is affordable housing on site. We believe that integrated neighborhoods and buildings are really important for the next generation of San Jose. So we would continue to ask the developer to consider that as part of their project plan. And we know that there are developments like one down the street on Meridian Avenue that just a month or two before they came to Planning Commission decided to build that affordable housing on site. So we think that that's a really important component. We appreciate the developer working hard to try to be responsive to neighbors in the Buena Vista and West San Carlos area who've talked about having a public paseo as part of this project. And we look forward to seeing what the developers can do. We know they're working really, really hard to try to make that component something that they can build into this development. And so we hope tonight you can move this forward and we can continue to have conversations about how to make a really great Midtown San Jose. Thank you so much.
Jennifer, is there any other public comment?
No, there is not.
All right, so before we go to the applicant's response to public comment, I do see that our city attorney has her hand up. Typically, that means we're going to have to follow something in place. So, Vera, do you have any question or concern or something you wanted to share right now?
Thank you, Chair Bonilla. Yes, I wanted to note that the commissioners apparently received the letter from Brian Flynn of Lizzo Drury. It was sent to you at 4:01 p.m. this afternoon. It was not sent to the CEQA planner identified in the EIR document as the person to receive all public comments. Not only is this letter late, it is also not provided to staff as it should have been. It's my opinion that you don't have to consider it. However, we have posted it publicly. The Planning Commission has it. And as a courtesy, we have given it to you. And as a courtesy, staff may be responding, but it is not something that we are required to respond to because it was late and it was not presented to city staff or, by the way, the applicant in order to be able to respond to the concerns of the commenter. The changes, there was a question as to the changes that were made to Exhibit A and to Exhibit B, the CEQA resolution and the other document. Those are posted with this item with the agenda. Thank you.
Given those facts, staff, would you want to respond in any way to this letter? If so, we could do so after applicant response to public comment within our commissioner question time. If you want to, I want to make that available. Staff, do you want to let me know? No obligation.
Yeah, this is Myra Blanco, Environmental Project Manager for the project. I can speak to some of the concerns raised after the applicant's time.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and do that. So now we will bring back the applicant for another 5 minutes.
All right. Thank you. I think on my end, architecturally, once again, the goals of this project are pretty closely aligned with the urban village plan for the West San Carlos Street neighborhood. Everything in terms of height, density, parking usage, public space. We're really excited that the ownership team has acquired property adjacent to this. We're working on a new phase of the project that extends the Paseo all the way over to Willard Street and adds a lot more retail along the boulevard. And I think as far as the comment about providing the affordable units on site, I wanted to invite DG Manny, who is the managing member of the LLC, the ownership team, to address affordable housing if she has anything she wants to say. I see she's on here.
Oh, hi. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Thanks for hearing our project. Basically, I just wanted to say we are considering acquiring lots which are adjacent to this property to put the affordable housing there. So we are working towards that, but at this time, we don't have any concrete plans, but we are definitely looking at acquiring additional parcels where we will put affordable housing for this particular project.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, those, I think if there's any other questions, we're happy to answer them from any of the commissioners. Thank you.
With the applicant response concluded, I am now going to open it up to staff to respond to that letter or the items within that letter that they're prepared to respond to.
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
My apologies. I'm just wondering if it's appropriate to, because if they get on the record, I just want to ask Vera the repercussions of them, staff responding to this letter, given it wasn't given to the right person. Are there any repercussions there?
No, I think we have done this previously as a courtesy, and when we have late comments or when they've gone to the wrong people or they're at the last minute, something else inappropriate. I think it can, answer whatever questions the commission has arising from this since you did receive it. So I don't see any issue with that at all. In fact, I would prefer that all of this, often be in the record than not in the record, even if it's a courtesy response. And what I also wanted to add was, I appreciated one of the commissioners sending me this message, and I got it. He sent it after 4:30 when he received it. I sent it to staff after 5 p.m. So there really wasn't adequate time to consider this. It didn't go to the right people. It went to the decision makers, but not the people who were preparing this document and responding to public comments on behalf of the city, nor did it go to the applicant. So that's the concern here. But thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate your question.
Thank you, Vera.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, with that, staff, go ahead and respond to whatever you can respond to right now.
Sure. Again, Myra Blanco, Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement, and Environmental Project Manager. So thanks to Council for clarifying that staff did receive, as Vera stated, the comment letter at around 5:30 this evening. But I also wanted to provide some context just so you understand the CEQA process and how the environmental impact report came about and how it was prepared, just for some context. So let me provide that at this moment. The City of San Jose prepared the Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, for the project in compliance with the requirements of CEQA and the CEQA guidelines. The draft EIR was circulated for 45 days from January 12, 2021 through February 26, 2021. The EIR identified a significant and unavoidable impacts to cultural resources due to the demolition of the Craftsman-style house and 7 Spanish-style bungalows on site that are eligible candidate city landmarks, and a significant cumulative impact due to the limited number of bungalows left in the city. During the 45-day public review and comment period, staff did receive comments on the environmental document. Comments pertaining to the EIR analysis included specific concerns with air quality, specifically Lazo Drury LLP on behalf of Laborers International Union of North America, Local Union Number 270, or LIUNA, identified concerns with indoor air quality impacts related to the project, in particular emissions of formaldehyde, issues with the parameters used to estimate project emissions, air quality impact from reactive organic gas emissions, or ROG emissions, health risks from diesel particulate matter emissions, and the project's cumulative air quality impacts. Staff took the opportunity to address all of these comments, including the air quality concerns, in a first amendment to the draft environmental impact report, which is posted on the city's active environmental EIR's planning page under the West San Carlos project subpage. More details to the points raised in the February letter and today's letter can be reviewed there. But briefly, in response to the commenter asserting the air quality impacts assessment was inadequate, city staff maintains that the BACMed CEQA guidelines do not have a threshold for indoor air quality and would invite the commenter to provide a specific reference to the standard. In accordance with the California Supreme Court December 2015 opinion, CEQA is concerned with impacts of a project on the environment and not the impacts of the existing environment on a project's future users unless the risk exacerbates the environmental hazards or risks that already exist. Additionally, BACMed does not have an adopted threshold for formaldehyde exposure from indoor building sources. And the project would be constructed to the most recent California Building Code regulations, which specifies that composite wood products are required to meet the formaldehyde specifications required under the California Air Resources Board air toxic control measures. Lastly, it is speculative for the city to estimate the type and volume of building materials that may contain formaldehyde. The exposure levels and contaminant intake levels presented in the comment are speculative and do not take into account stringent requirements in the city's municipal code, the Cal Green Code and LEED certification, as well as the Cal OSHA and US EPA restrictions and programs regarding formaldehyde levels. Ventilation systems in new buildings would also be required to be in compliance with all of the regulations. So again, there is no BACMed threshold that we could find for indoor formaldehyde exposure. And let's see, I believe another comment that was brought up was that the EIR relied on unsubstantiated parameters. The First Amendment clarified the parameters we used. The air quality analysis for the draft EIR used a longer grading period than the default value to account for the project's excavation of up to 14 feet in depth. So using the default CaliMod assumptions would have underestimated the construction emissions associated with grading, which would have led to underestimates for total emissions that are used to compute daily emissions and the overall dosage of toxic air contaminants, or TACs, used in the health risk assessment. And of course, if there are any other questions regarding the technical response to comments, city staff would also like to ask to call on Shannon George, who is the project's environmental consultant from David J. Power and Associates, if there are additional questions.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. It was impromptu, but clearly you have been working closely on this case, so you did have some answers for us. I appreciate that. So with that, we're going to now take this to commissioner questions. I know Commissioner Caballero was the first one on it, so I'm going to call on Commissioner Caballero at this moment.
So I have a few questions for staff and for the applicant. So I'll go ahead and go with the applicant questions first. So two main questions have to do with the PASEO, the public PASEO, and then the TDM. So for the public PASEO, I'm wondering if you could bring the slideshow back up that shows the public PASEO and describe a little bit more, or discuss a little more about why the PASEO can't be open to the public after phase 1 and needs to wait until phase 2. I see on the site plan that there's a residential building that sort of, or a resident, I'm assuming it's a residence that's that sort of abuts it, and I'm not really quite understanding how it would be go all the way through to the street. So I'm wondering if you could show that, and then talk about why you've made the decision to delay the opening of the PASEO until phase 2. And we can see your screen, but if you're talking,
right. On the applicant side, we cannot hear you.
There we go. Okay, can you hear me now?
We can.
All right, this is the plan basically that shows the PASEO in the south portion of the property. And the way that the urban village plan reads is that the PASEO is not public until it connects with a public street. And so the applicant has made efforts to try and acquire these two lots that would extend the property over to Buena Vista Street. We've been unable to do so. As I said, we're working on a project here to the east, which does extend the PASEO all the way to Willard Street, and it would make the project connected for the public. So I think in a nutshell, the intention was that people not be walking up and down this driveway to get in and out, the public not be walking in and out to get to this space in the back, that the space truly isn't public until it connects to a public city street.
And so then, if I'm looking at this and understanding correctly, the property to the other side is also occupied. So there's no street entrance on that side either.
Yes, there's some residential properties on the east side of this, which the ownership team, it's actually a new partnership of people, but it includes some of the owners of this property. And we have designed a project that has been submitted. It's already been commented on by staff. We're in the process of responding to comments, but it extends the Paseo another couple hundred feet over to Willard Street. So there is a project that ties it in. If we could acquire this project, it's a single family home to our west, we'd be able to connect over here to Buena Vista Street, but that hasn't been possible yet.
And my understanding is that phase one, I think it mentions, the report mentions that construction would take approximately 24 months. But given that there's no guarantee for the other two projects you're mentioning, or the purchase of the residential properties to, I guess that would be the west or the project to the east. I mean, doesn't that essentially make this not a public access point or usage?
Well, what it's trying to do is abide by the principles of the Urban Village Plan, which was ultimately to extend this Paseo for a 4-block distance. So it's sort of an incremental process. The only way that these Paseos become public is when they connect to a city street. So you're correct. It's not a public access space at the beginning. I know the developer is also paying city park fees to provide new parks in the area. So the Paseo is only one small component of what the project ends up doing in the big picture to help out with city parks. And ultimately, we'd like to see this connect to the public right of way ourselves, but it's not plausible until it hits a city street.
Okay, and then the driveway and sort of loading zone that sort of bifurcates the two project or the main project. Does that actually go to underground parking? Meaning that like it would more than likely be dangerous for people to be using that to get to the back.
Well, there is a walkway, a 6-foot wide walkway that runs along the edge of the retail here, and you can see there it crosses over a parking aisle here to get to the rear. There's a project ramp. So when you get to the end of this driveway, this is a ramp that's going to essentially go down to the basement level of parking. So yes, there is a basement level that sits below the entire site. And there is a walkway that gives the pedestrian a safer path of travel to get from front to back.
So from a design perspective, why I see that the piece that's sort of to the west would hit Buena Vista. Why not put the Paseo there? That could potentially on the west side. It doesn't now, but it could potentially hit Buena Vista Street.
Well, I guess the goal for us was to try and keep the Paseo in the location that it was intended to be in per the plan. So we have about 15 feet, is it, Ty? Yeah. That's on the south side of the west building. So there is a walkway space that extends behind this building. But as you can see here right now, it terminates into the driveway of the, really more the utilitarian automobile access portion of phase one. So when this project was initially submitted, it was strictly this piece here, the mid-block section. After we submitted it and got city comments, the owners were able to come back and acquire the corner parcel where the car lot is. And so this phase two was added to this to sort of encompass this design here.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you so much. My next question has to do with the TDM measures, and just want to confirm that the two main ones that you're recommending are the transit subsidies, which I love because, in honesty, I think transit should be free for everyone, but subsidies are great too. And then that the unbundling of the parking, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I guess my last question has to do with, well, and it's more of a comment than a question, so I don't expect you to answer, is just my overall kind of disappointment that there's no on-site affordable housing. You know, I know that this area is pretty affordable now. And so, you know, would love to see affordable housing in every single project that comes forward. But I do want to commend you on a different piece of that. I love the architecture. I love the style. I love everything about the way this looks. And I hope that, you know, I think that stylistically it'll really add to the Midtown area. So thank you for that. I think the architecture is beautiful. That's all for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Caliato. Before we go on to other commissioners, again, I see our city attorney's hand up. Vera, are you there? That may have been a...
You know, I don't believe that I put it down. And so let me do that. I'm sorry, I apologize. Thank you.
That's okay. Commissioner Oliverio.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to first touch on the letter. It's sort of like Groundhog's Day. This commission has heard that pretty much template letter, and it's done strategically at the last minute, avoiding the professional planning staff and send it to the commissioners to create uncertainty and doubt. And I think the city staff answered it very well. It's the state of California that regulates building materials, and that was an appropriate answer to that EIR. Wanted to point out that that the Paseo in itself it was a community dream, and putting that together incrementally it does take time, and it's great to see it being proposed on this side and on the other side of the street. And you know, it is a dream or aspiration of communities to have these, and it's great to see progress being made on that regard. This project matches what we want in the general plan, right? Active uses, building density in significant smart growth manner between, in this case, downtown and Santana Row. It meets the requirements of the village plan. It is great density. I know some people have fear of density, but we are consistently approving projects with similar density at the Planning Commission constantly with similar height. We just approved one around the corner at San Carlos, Meridian and Park, which is right against residential, 7 stories. We had another project which had some historic candidate landmarks, and they were candidates, and those were on a project we approved on Meridian Avenue near Willow Street. That was 233 units on 2 acres. So much of this we've seen before as a planning commission. You know, how do I say this? There is an alternative in the EIR to save the existing structures. However, that removes an incredible amount of housing units. It removes the commercial space. It removes open space. So I don't really see that as a viable alternative. And what the applicant has put forward and what the staff has recommended is a good one. It complies with height, setbacks, and zoning. The TDM allows for reduced parking, and we've done that on other projects as a planning commission. And I think it's, you know, on the design side, which is, you know, that's how individuals feel. I do feel it's attractive, but again, that's not a matter for us to decide versus height and density and things of that matter. I did attend this community meeting in 2018 for the initial meeting. And this mix of uses is really unique. It's what we aspire for, to have that second story office above retail and then housing on top. We've done that in only one other place I know of, and that's on the Alameda, adjacent to the Whole Foods. And that's been a great success. And, you know, so far so good. So with that said, I don't really have many comments or questions actually, but more commentary that this is what we are set to be approving in our general plan. And so I'd simply just like to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
I'm gonna accept your motion, but put a pin on it because I've got some other colleagues that do want to go on the record. So Commissioner Oliveira does have a motion on the floor, but let's get to Commissioner Wardenois.
Chair, I forgot to bring up one other point. On the topic of affordable housing, applicants have a choice. The city provides them a choice, and that choice is either on-site or you pay, and in this case, $17 million in fees. So it's not for anyone to say you must. when the fact that the applicant has the choice. And I think that's important for the record.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Oliverio. Commissioner Lordinois.
Yeah, my question was also about affordable housing. I mean, first, just a question about how the inclusionary housing ordinance applies here. So it sounds like the applicant is still trying to figure out, they mentioned that they're trying to acquire another site to build off-site affordable housing to satisfy the requirement. And I guess I'm just wondering, can City Council approve the project if the applicant still hasn't decided how they're going to satisfy the requirement? That's a question for staff, I think.
Staff.
I can jump in here just briefly. So the applicant would still have to provide the 20% offsite fee, no matter what. Ultimately, though, the affordable housing agreement isn't finalized, is finalized prior to the building receiving a certificate of occupancy. Does that answer your question? So even if they were to acquire another parcel offsite, they would still have to provide the 20% offsite in lieu fee for these two parcels here.
Okay, and just remind me, the certificate of occupancy is required for them to actually start leasing out units.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then just as a follow-up question, more of a subjective question for the applicant, why didn't you choose to have on-site affordable housing in this project?
Applicant, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
We can now.
Yeah. So initially, the investment group decided that these will all be luxury condos. And that is why we were just, again, these are going to be condos and not apartments. And that's when they decided, do we have an option? So this option was given to us by the housing department. And we thought, since we have an option, we thought, okay, right now we will just choose that option. But as was told by the city, Alec was mentioning that we have not decided completely on that. We might just make it as an inclusionary thing if it comes to that. Or we are looking at acquiring an adjacent parcel, just a parcel within the same block, actually. So if that is possible, then we will have a separate building there. So it is still under deliberation. It's a work in progress. Nothing has been decided as far as we are concerned. This was just a first thought. And we need to decide before when we start building the units, we will just decide during that process.
Okay. Just as a subjective comment, if it's possible to have the units on site or in a nearby property, I do think that's valuable to have communities that have a mix of income levels and not have one part of town be the luxury housing and a different part of town be the affordable housing. That's it for my comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Mardino. With that, Commissioner Torrance.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. So I guess I have a comment and then a question. So I just really enjoy seeing urban villages built out, see that happen, see the general plan come to life. So that's always very exciting. My question is regarding the last slide with the community benefits. So I'm wondering if applicant, you could go back to that one that we didn't get to look at.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so you did say here the affordable housing. So that's the in lieu fee that you're planning to pay. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, the way the city calculates the fee, it is in this particular location, it's $167,200 per unit for 25% of the units. And so 25% of the 173 came out to $7.231 million. And that would be the fee.
Okay, thank you. I have to agree with my colleagues who just spoke about the affordable housing, that I always prefer to have that integrated. I think integration is always better for everyone to have those. And I understand when you can't and that the city gives the option. But yeah, so there is that. And then I can't remember if you said, are these owner occupied units or are these rentals?
These are going to be owner occupied.
Owner occupied. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Torrance. Is there any other comment from my colleagues? And you know what I'll do, because we are a new group, we don't know each other, and we're all getting to know each other. I do know there's a motion on the floor that Commissioner Oliveira made, which we will address. But do any other colleagues, Commissioner Casey, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think our colleagues covered all the salient points.
Commissioner Cantrell? And no pressure to anyone.
Sorry, yeah. I did have a question. I'm just curious about the legacy businesses that would be displaced. Is there any planning for some of those retail businesses to exist or continue to exist within this development?
Can I answer that question? Yeah, so the restaurant which was there, it's not a legacy restaurant. They've been there for like 3-4 years, and they moved down the street, not down the street, exactly on Santa Clara Street. So they already found a place and they have a restaurant there. And the used car salespeople, they moved right across the street, diagonally across the street, and that business is still existing. And one other business is the A1 car rental, and he was planning to retire, and this gave him a best opportunity to retire, actually.
Okay, so that business was compensated?
No, they already closed down, actually.
Okay.
They already closed down. They were on a month-to-month, and they decided they were not doing well.
I see. Okay, so there's no continuity of business for anyone who was there previously?
No, no, but yeah, the restaurant got compensated, of course.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Does that conclude your questions, Commissioner Cantrell?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. Commissioner Garcia?
I have to say that I agree with Commissioner Oliverio. It's a very well done project. It's the definition of highest and best use of this land where it's located. So, I agree. And don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Montañez? Commissioner Montañez, can you hear me? Oh, that's
He's on mute.
With you.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. All right. So I have a couple of questions and then just a slight correction on one of the pages. So we'll start with the correction. Page 16 of 24 in the staff report, can we change the word bust, B-U-S-T, to bus, B-U-S, stop? So that's number one. And then the couple of questions that I have is there are single family residences that are going to, be demolished. And I just want to know how many individuals currently live in those housings and then in those houses, and are they being relocated or are they being given, what's their timeline to move? And then currently, if we can understand how much those families that are on those properties are paying in rent, because I'd like to know if we're dislocating individuals who are living under what would be considered affordable housing conditions or low income housing conditions. So that's my first question.
Can anyone answer her question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So all of them have moved out. When we purchased the property, there were about 6 of the units out of the 8 was occupied by Section 8 participants, and they all have found alternate properties, so they were paying market rent. And then one of the property was occupied by the mother of the seller, the person who sold the property to us. So she moved somewhere else. And then one other person moved closer to their family. The son lives in Santa Rosa, so he moved there. So all of them have already moved out.
Okay. And then do you know if the individuals that were under Section 8 housing, they relocated into Section 8 housing in the area?
Yes.
Okay. And then my other question is, and this is minor, but I do want to understand with respect to residential open space, if I do the calculations at 160 times the 173 units, I'm at 27,680, and we're about 1,000 square feet of open space that's short. And maybe this is a question to the planning staff or maybe to the attorney. Do we require any kind of special permitting because we don't actually meet the 27,680 square feet? Or can we just go ahead and move forward even though we haven't met the minimum requirement?
Alec Atienza, planning project manager. Can you point me specifically to which part you're looking at? I do believe that they provide a minimum of 60 feet per unit.
So if you go to page 14, I believe,
Yeah,
page 14
yes.
of 24, you talk about the residential open space. I believe it says that 160 square feet is a minimum requirement per unit, and you actually have 153 or 154. So we're short 1,000 square feet of open space for residential open space requirements.
So is that, you mean just for the common open space? Or
Well, that's
for
what I'm-
specific individual open space? Sorry, I guess I'm not quite understanding.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can get to that page. of my-
And maybe Jeff or Ty can jump in here too. They have the calculations up.
Sure. let me
Yes.
go-
I mean, as far as, Alec, as far as the common open space goes, our required open space was 14,600 square feet. And the provided, no, I'm saying 14, I'm sorry, 24,600 square feet is required. And we're providing 26,600, almost 700. So we are a couple hundred feet over the required. So maybe there's a misprint in one of the reports.
I guess just one other thing I wanted to point out too is that this is a design guideline. It's not necessarily a standard. So they, it's requested that they meet this, but it's not necessarily 100% required.
Okay. I'm trying to. Sorry, because I was having problems with my audio on my computer. I shut
I also may have flubbed the calculation there. Apologies if that's
While
the case.
while you're doing that, Commissioner Montañez, I will go to Commissioner Young and then come back to you. Is that okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Perfect. Commissioner Young. Any comments, questions? None of the above? You're on mute, Commissioner Young.
He shook his head no.
Okay. Well, then we'll go back to Commissioner Montañez.
Okay, so on the memorandum on page, let's see, page number 14, and it's under where it says residential open space, 60 square feet per unit with a minimum dimension of 6 feet. Common open space should be provided at a minimum of 100. So if we do the 60 plus the 100, unless those are separate, unless it's aggregate together, right?
So-
but I'm looking at it 100 plus the 60, right?
So,
Or am I looking
Chair-
at it?
so Commissioner, I can answer your question. They're providing 26,000 square feet of common open space. So that's different than private. It's not a combination. So the balconies, for example, are considered private open space. So that's one calculation. And then providing about 100 square feet. So if you took 173, they're only required to provide 17,300 square feet of common open space. They're providing 26.
26,000.
Yes.
But
which-
it's, so are we saying, okay, just so that I'm understanding it, so it's not the 100 plus the 60 and then you
No,
multiply it
they're
by
two different. No, those are two different types of open spaces. One's private
got
and
it.
one, yeah. And it's I think that's where the confusion is in terms of. Sorry, John T, supervising planner, and in addition to that, and as Alex says, these are design guidelines. They don't necessarily have to meet them all. Given this is urban context, you have commercial uses down there. on the bottom ground floor. So common open spaces can be provided in other ways than the typical open space. But yes, they're two different calculations.
Okay, very good. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Commissioner Montañez. We have two more questions, one from Commissioner Oliverio and one from Commissioner Young. Commissioner Oliverio.
Yeah, just one other point. I know there's been concern about, well, the mix of income levels in the neighborhood, because this would be market rate paying in the millions of dollars in the fees. But if you go across the street, the city replaced the Fiesta Lanes Bowling Shopping Center years ago, and we put approximately 150 all low-income units across the street. So in a way, this project would balance the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Oliverio. Commissioner Young.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Apologize earlier, I was having a Zoom problem. I have a question for, I believe this will be for staff, and it was about the resident concern that was shared about pedestrians safely transiting the front of the building on San Carlos during construction. Is that something that we can require?
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Provenzano, Public Works. I'd be happy to help take that on for you. As part of their conditions of approval, they are required to come in with what we call a site utilization plan. This is how the project will intend to construct the site and the impacts on the streets for their construction access. At that point, we will look very closely at the neighborhood accessibility around the sites. If needed, perhaps the pedestrian tunnels. It may determine how the trucks access the site. Obviously, try to keep everybody's safety is their top priority. But the applicant will come in with a formal plan that will be approved by the city, be approved by our inspection staffs. And as requested in the public comment, contact information for both the construction site and city staff will be available at the site if there's any concerns.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, colleagues, with that, we have all had an opportunity to ask questions of the city, the applicant. So I'm going to go ahead, unless I see some hands from my colleagues that want to ask more questions, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment. Seeing none, I will close the public comment. We had a motion on the floor from Commissioner Oliverio. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Second.
Lord Enoy, I think I heard you, correct?
Yeah, he got me.
All right, got it. So with that, we've got Commissioner Oliverio with the motion, Lord Enoy with the second. Commissioner Oliverio, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Chair, but welcome to all the new commissioners.
Commissioner Lord Enoy, would you like to speak to your second?
Also, no, thank you, but I'm happy to see we've got members from all over the city now.
Great. So with that, we will now take a roll call vote. Bonilla, aye. Casey.
Aye.
Caballero.
Aye.
Cantrell.
Abstain.
Garcia.
Aye.
Ordenois.
Aye.
Montañez.
Aye.
Oliverio.
Aye.
Torrance.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
With that, the motion passes 9-1-1 with 9-1-1 with Commissioner Cantrell abstaining and Commissioner Ornelas Wise being absent. Forgive my corny dad jokes, but that's the phase of life I'm in. With that, we will go to item 6, referrals from city council, boards, commissions, or other agencies. Do we have any of the above, staff?
Nope.
Great. Item 7, good and welfare. Do we have a report from the city council?
No, we don't, Mr. Chair. We don't.
They're smart. They're taking the whole month of July off. That makes sense. All right. Not us, though. We're overachievers. All right. Item B, subcommittee formation reports and outstanding business. Anything to report on item B?
No, we don't.
All right. Item C, commission calendar and study sessions.
No study sessions scheduled anytime soon.
Great. And with that, item D, the public record. Colleagues, does anyone have anything to add to the public record? Again, congratulations on being appointed. Your first meeting of the San Jose Planning Commission. This is literally the level of excitement they tend to go in. So, get your rest before these meetings. They can go long at times, but congratulations. It's not only good public service, but really it's a tremendous value to the city to have your perspective at the table. Colleagues, anyone else have anything to add?
Chair, I would just say that for our new colleagues that, just what you approved tonight would be a great conversation at a party you're at with your friends to talk about what type of developments are getting approved in San Jose. And I think probably most people are unaware across the city of the type of quality development such as this one that are coming forward. Thank you.
Do they get invited back to the party after we talk about this stuff, or how does that work?
Absolutely. People love
All right.
people
There
love
you
to
go.
talk about it.
There you go. Exactly. Commissioner Torrance, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to extend my greeting also to the new commissioners. I was brand new a year ago, and I'm really impressed that you've already given comments, and that's just amazing. So very glad to have you. And my friends love hearing me talk about planning commission stuff. They think it's fascinating.
Mine too. My kids in particular, funny enough. Commissioner Young, I see your hand up. Did you want to add something?
No, sorry, I forgot to lower it later. Thank you.
No worries. With that, colleagues, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. Let's take this ride and journey together to the residents of this city. It is the first time in the history of our city that there are 11 of us, and making it more interesting as we have never met. So we are going to deliberate to the best of our abilities. At times it may get interesting, it may get a little messy, but at the end of the day, we're all focused on doing what we believe is best for the city and for our community. So with that, have a great evening. Till the next one.